Welcome to the latest in our podcast series with Rick Bacon of Aqua Metrology Systems. Today we'll continue our discussion about lead contamination of our water. The EPA has just announced some new proposals for reducing the risk of lead contamination in drinking water. What are your views on these?
Thanks, Carter. It's good to be back. The proposal has several elements, but I'm just going to focus on the part that refers to monitoring of lead. And to be very honest, the proposals offer no real improvement. The current and the proposed systems are all testing after the fact. So after the water has passed through this lead pipe, there will then be testing whether it's safe to drink. And the issue is that it might be safe one moment, but 5 minutes later, 3 days later, 6 months later, it could well not be safe to drink.
Right.
And that's the real issue. And you can't be testing the water every 5 minutes from however many points in a house or a school or a daycare. So the millions of dollars that are being spent on these test protocols are really, I think, creating a sense of something being done as opposed to something real being done about monitoring. And what consumers and utilities really need is an early warning system to tell them that their water is now not of a quality that's safe. So if you like, ahead of a bad situation.
Kind of a predictive.
Yeah, exactly. And then that warning, a bit like a canary in the mine, would tell the utilities you've got to do something because now consumers are at risk, but it would also tell the consumer before they actually drank the water and it ended up in the bloodstream of young children, you should either be changing your carbon filters, water filters at the tap, you could be switching to bottled water, you should be flushing your taps for longer, doing something to avoid this risk.
Can you explain how such an early warning system might work?
Yeah, so what we can do is we can be monitoring every 30 minutes water in the distribution system long before it gets to the consumer, and that water is passing over lead components, whether that's a service line, could be a water pipe in a house, piece of solder, brass fitting, which is also a source of lead contamination. And as soon as the water chemistry changes, any element of it, that would obviously provoke corrosion of any one of those components. And as a consequence, we would detect that very quickly, long before the water ever got to the consumer. It normally takes 2 to 3 days for the water to get from somewhere in the distribution system early on to the consumer. So plenty of time to take evasive action. And then following on from that, having identified that there's a risk, you can then start testing frequently in homes to confirm or not whether this risk has materialized. And if it does, then the continuous testing can continue until the risk has passed. And everyone knows that the water is back to being safe to drink. So this is a predictive way, very reliable, of determining when there's a deterioration in the quality of water before it actually impacts consumers and their health.
So a new approach.
Totally new. We're using risk analysis, AI, predictive analytics to actually warn people ahead of the contaminated water reaching them.
Well, I have to say our previous conversation about lead contamination was a little bit hopeless, but this has certainly given hope to us all.
Well, we're bringing a new approach to it, and I think one that will be much more reliable and efficient in terms of risk prevention.
Well, I hope you're able to get this to market quickly. We could certainly use this solution.
We're working on it.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks.